Welcome. Few books about the Great War have been as popular or as influential as All Quiet on the Western Front. And this is not a recent development. The JSTOR database contains a number of digitized sources relevant for understanding the book, ranging from early reviews to more recent academic studies. Today, we'll use JSTOR to study reception. We'll also look at how to do an advanced search and how to organize search results to maximize research efficiency. Historical reception is pretty much what it sounds like. Reception is about afterlives and tracing these through later history. It's not about Remarque as an author or everything that went into writing and publishing All Quiet on the Western Front. Rather, reception is about anything and everything that came after. For example, we could study how the first reviewers saw the book, or how later figures interpreted it, and whether they embraced it or rejected it. We could look further at artistic adaptation and transformation, such as the many film versions of the book. In fact, you might even say that reception is always about receptions in the plural, because there is always more than just one afterlife. Because All Quiet on the Western Front is a fairly recent work, JSTOR is an excellent database for studying the book's reception. To get started, first log into JSTOR through the library. Then, when you get to JSTOR's main page, click on Advanced Search. Looking at this page, you'll see some text entry boxes, and down below, a big red button that says Submit Advanced Search. In the first text entry box, type All Quiet on the Western Front. Make sure that you put the title into double quotes. Whenever you search in any search engine, JSTOR, Google, or something else, if you put a phrase in double quotes, then the search engine will search for that exact phrase. But after you type this in, don't hit enter, not yet. Instead, scroll down the page to the next section, which is entitled Narrow Results. This is immediately below the big red button that says Submit Advanced Search. Here you'll see a number of features. For example, you can limit the kind of sources that you retrieve. There are other limitations too, such as language and date. These are all worth playing with. But, for the sake of this workshop, just do the following. First, where you see the drop-down box for language, click on English. This means that we're limiting our search results to sources in the English language. Second, where you see the text entry boxes for publication date, enter 1945 into the second box. This means that nothing will appear from after 1945, which is when World War II ended. Third and finally, where you see item type, you don't need to click on anything. Now go ahead and click on Submit Advanced Search. You'll immediately get a page that looks something like this. A few things should be pointed out. First, at the top of the search results page, in the text entry box, you'll see exactly what you just searched. This is coded in a particular way, so we should unpack that. The first portion of the search appears in parentheses, and in this, in double quotes. Following this, you see the word "and" in all capitals. This means that, following your specific search phrase, there is an other limitation that you've placed on the search. And, like the first limitation, this second limitation is placed in parentheses. As you can guess, LA means language, and ENG or EN means English. So, you've asked JSTOR to limit search results to a specific phrase in English. Immediately below this, you'll see the number of search results. Between the time that I perform the search and the time that you perform it, this number may change. JSTOR is constantly adding new material, so if your number of search results is different, that's fine. Below the number of search results, we see two more limitations. Each appears in a drop-down box. The first is the limitation on time, no sources after 1945. The second is the limitation on how results are displayed. JSTOR defaults to what it calls relevance. Sometimes this helps, sometimes not. So go ahead and click where it says relevance and change it to oldest. This means that the sources will now display starting with the oldest and moving to the newest. So now you've got search results and you've got them organized chronologically. But before we go any further, let's think about what we've just done. Let me make 2 points. First, we limited our search to just one database, and thus only what is available in JSTOR. Other databases would almost certainly contain additional sources. And this means that if we did a larger study, we would need to consult more than just the JSTOR database. Nonetheless, JSTOR is a great place to start. My second point is this. In JSTOR, we limited our search results based on both language and date. This is beneficial because adding limits helps focus our research by limiting the number of search results. Of course, limiting search results also has drawbacks. For example, All Quiet on the Western Front was not originally written in English. So, by limiting our search results to English language results, we aren't looking at the earliest available sources for studying the book's reception. To see those, we would need to research German language sources because the book was written in German. To summarize, as we research, we also need to think about limits. Both the limits that we input into a database search and also the limits of the database itself. There are 2 major things now left for us to do. First, having used JSTOR to generate available results, we need to read through those results. You'll need to find results that discuss the book in some depth. Not every result that pops up will do so. Some will only mention the book in passing. While you do this, you need to start making notes about what you find in the sources. Think about this in terms of variables. For example, religion is a variable. If you find that some responses to the book are in religious publications, make a note about that. You might want to write about religious responses to the work. Another variable is genre. Maybe you'll find sources that don't discuss the book, but instead discuss an early film adaptation of it. Maybe you'll want to write on this instead. Next, as we research and make notes, we'll need to start thinking about our second task. Simply stated, at some point, you need to start writing. But the relationship between research and writing is not linear. Yes, you always start with research, and yes, as you research, you should always take notes. But even once you begin writing, you'll probably still do some research. You'll certainly go back to the sources that you've chosen to focus on. The relationship between research and writing is circuitous. You do some research, you write some notes. You do some more research, you write an outline. You flesh out the outline, you get some writer's block, and then you go back to your sources. Maybe you then do still more research. In the end, all that matters is that you have a coherent paper with a clear thesis and evidence-based conclusions. Let me now give some more examples of variables you might look for as you do your research. The variable you choose will be the topic you write about. I've already mentioned both religion and genre, but there are other variables too. One such variable is date. We limited our search to English language results up through the year 1945. But of course, the book wasn't even published until 1929. So our search results really date from 1929 to 1945. What happened between these dates that might allow you to write a short paper about the reception of the book? One possible answer is the beginning of World War II. So you could organize the results in JSTOR into those published before 1939 and those published between 1939 and 1945. If you go this route, you've made 1939 the variable in your research, and your thesis should reflect this. But of course, date is just one variable. You could choose something else. For example, as you get into reading through the sources, you'll find that some come from college newspapers. Did reviews in college newspapers differ from those found in other publications? This is relevant because younger men were more likely to join the armed forces than older men. If you choose to go this route, your thesis will need to reflect this too. But again, you could choose another variable as well. What about sex? Were some authors male and other authors female? If so, does this affect their views of the book? And still other variables could also be looked for: race, nationality, socioeconomic status, etc. What you choose to focus on will depend on what you find in the available sources. And please keep in mind, I'm here to help. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button. Feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.